Today, we're going to show you step by step how to put together a $700 gaming PC that is super solid, and we're going to tell you how you can win one.
This PC specifically features an RTX 3060 Ti and Ryzen 5 5600, which should deliver some really good price performance, but we got to build it first to see after a word from today's sponsor.
Today's video is sponsored by us, PCBros.tech.
PCBros is our gaming PC business where we sell awesome gaming PCs, gaming laptops, and so much more, especially the stuff you see here on the channel. We sell over at PCBros.tech for great prices.
The best part about PC Bros is we have PCs that start under $100, so whether you're looking just to get into some office work or some really high-end gaming, we have you covered.
And they all come with our awesome 1-year warranty, which will give you peace of mind when buying a gaming PC from us. So check the link down below to shop at PCBros.tech today and use code TOASTYBROS2 and check out to save 2% on your next purchase. Big shout out again to us for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get into the video.
Starting off this build guide at $124, we have the Ryzen 5 5600X. This is a super solid CPU right now because 6 cores, 12 threads, Gen 4 support on the PCIe and the NVMe slots, and on top of that, it comes with a stock cooler, but we're going to be using something a little better. Coming in at $35 to cool this CPU, which is not necessarily needed, but it's going to look really good and it's going to run very well. The ID Cooling A410DK has dual fans. It's $35, so you really can't go wrong with it. And once you guys see this build put together, you'll understand why we went with this cooler. Coming in at $73, we have this ASRock B550M-HDV. Now, one of the things that I was looking for in this motherboard was that it had Gen 4 capability. So, and on the back you can actually see PCIe 4.0 by 16. That was really important for me. I'm not too worried about the NVMe slot, but I want to make sure our 3060 gets its full Gen 4 bandwidth. Now, the sacrifices with this board being so cheap is you only get 2 RAM slots and you only get 1 4-pin for the CPU power, so upgrade path's a little lacking. I wouldn't try to put a 5800X3D in this thing, but honestly, this build out of the box is going to have some decent longevity to it. Coming in at $43, we have the PNY XLR8 16 gigs of RAM. So you can save a good amount of money right now by going not RGB, but originally, which Matt will talk about in a minute, I had a whole different case plan for this build. It was going to be nice and stealthy and black, and then just this was going to be RGB, but now we have an RGB case because I bought the wrong cases. So pretty good price though for RGB RAM, and PNY XLR8 some pretty quality 3200 megahertz dual channel kit RAM. Coming in at $32, the King Spec 512 gig Gen 3 NVMe SSD. The thing that I kind of like about these new to the market brand SSDs is they seem to promise really fast speeds, a good amount faster for Gen 3 than the counterparts that are like the same price on Team Group and some of the other name brands. So yeah, King Spec, we're gonna give them a try again. We haven't had any issues so far.
Now for the graphics card, we went to the used market and picked up a RTX 3060 Ti. If I can open up this box. Shout out again to Respect.io for sending out, well, they didn't send it over, we bought it, but it's the same we buy from all the time for these used GPU deals. This is a Dell OEM version that we paid $262 for. Comes with 2 fans, only requires an 8-pin for power, and the 3060 Ti with 8 gigs of VRAM has plenty of power for 1080p with DLSS, and even some 1440p with DLSS if you want to use this GPU, and I'm very excited to see how it pairs with the 5600X. Segotep, 650 watt, 80 plus gold power supply. It's what we do. PCBros.tech. If you want to buy one of these PCs or any other PC, it most likely is going to have a Segotep power supply in it. Use code TOASTYBROS, save 3% on your next purchase. But 650 watts is plenty for this build. You can opt for the 750 watt version if you want to, if you want ATX 3.0 for future GPU upgrades. But hey, this is the perfect one for this build. Now talking about the case audible. Originally, we were going to do the Fractal Pop Air Mini, which we ended up accidentally ordering the Fractal Pop Air, which again, the mini part's kind of important there for micro ATX. But instead of forcing a micro ATX board inside a full case, we went with the tried and trusted Montech Air 100 ARGB. Comes with 4 RGB fans pre-installed, good ventilation up front, a tempered glass side panel with a magnetic hinge system, and all in all, a really awesome case coming in at around $58. You can find this in black or white as well, so if you want to go for a white build, you can definitely do that yourself, even if you're following along at home. But hey, speaking of following along at home, we're going to show you guys how to set up the motherboard. Jack's going to show you how to install the CPU in the motherboard, put the RAM installed, put the storage into the motherboard, and from there, we're going to put it in the case with the power supply and all that sort of fun stuff, plug it all up, show you step by step, and you're gonna be just fine. I'm gonna hold your hand. All right, guys, we're gonna show you how to put together the motherboard. It's gonna be real simple, just follow along. So I'm gonna start off by opening this Ryzen 5 5600X. Gonna open the clamshell. Keep in mind, the CPU does have pins on it. We're not quite to Ryzen 7000 series yet in this video, but we're gonna go ahead and open up the socket just by pulling that latch kind of out and then up. And then there's going to be a little arrow on the CPU and a very faint arrow
on the socket. So what we're gonna do is kind of just drop it in place. It should just go right in. If you really want to though, you can kind of give it a little bit of, just a tiny amount of pressure to make sure it's in there. But it should just pop in. If it doesn't, you may have some bent pins. And I'm not gonna put the cooler on just yet. I think we're gonna go to the RAM next, just because the cooler is gonna be a little big, might get in the way. Open up both your RAM slots. Luckily, we don't need to, think about where to put the RAM because we're just gonna fill both. So we're gonna go ahead and go like that. It can only go in one way. There's a notch right there that's not in the middle. It's a little offset, so it's keyed. Can't miss it. You're gonna use a good amount of pressure. I usually will kind of use like my thumbs. Make sure that you're trying to push straight down rather than, wiggling, because you can fold your RAM lane over and your board's not gonna work anymore. NVMe, real simple. Once again, it's keyed. This one even more so than the RAM. So you're gonna put it in like that. Let it sit there for a second. This one actually comes with a screw, which is pretty cool. And we're gonna go ahead and swap over to a PH1. A PH1 or a PH0 will work just fine. Magnetic definitely helps. All right, so now we're gonna hold that down, get it as lined up as we can. All right, now for the fun part. I know coolers kind of scare a lot of people, but Matt and I built so many PCs that kind of just feels like nothing anymore. It ain't nothing to me, man. But basically, here's what comes in the box. We get this mounting kit, which I really like how they do. There's a lot of companies, they'll come in like separate baggies, but this one's laid out really nicely. We're gonna be using the red AMD risers, or I guess you call them spacers, whatever. But basically, you just rip them apart, come apart really easily. Now, one of the things that we already did, and I almost forgot to mention, we took off these stock brackets, which will look like this. They'll have 2 screws in each, they're just PH2, and you take them off. That'll reveal your AMD stock back plates. So you wanna make sure that you keep that on, and then we're just gonna put each one of these on. Orientation really doesn't matter with these. They can be crooked, honestly. And then here, we got 2 sets of brackets, one for Intel, one for AMD. I just already know from building so many of these that these are the AMD brackets. And I don't even think the Intel ones will line up. We're gonna need these screws here as well. These are also PH2, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab all 4 out. And I like to kind of just do it like this. Go ahead and get them dropped in, just line them up, just like that. Don't worry, we'll come back. So I'm gonna go ahead and get both of them on. You're gonna have the brackets facing outwards like that. A little starting action, and then we'll take our PH2. These do not need to be super tight, because keep in mind, those spacers are plastic, so you wouldn't need a whole lot of force to just crush one of those down. All right, just like that. So there we go. Brackets installed, pretty straightforward. We'll actually use their ID Cooling thermal paste because it's actually pretty decent. And does ID Cooling really stand for ideas to make a difference? Is that the move right there? Okay. So for thermal paste pattern, this is a square CPU. So we don't, unlike a lot of the new like rectangle Intel CPUs, I kind of like to do like a diagonal line. And then I like to put a couple of dots kind of on the outer edges there. So that should give us a really good spread, especially since this cooler is pretty smooth. I mean, as you can see. So we shouldn't get a whole lot of voids. And the lettering is going to go facing down like this. And also you can see the brackets offset. And the reason they do this is so that when you put your fan on here, it does not hit the RAM. All right, so we're going to kind of go opposing corners here because this is spring loaded. So we don't just want to put like all the force on one end of the CPU. All right, so back and forth. Just go a little bit on each one. And I totally didn't have that one in. There we go. All right, we're going to go a little more on that side. So also make sure we don't squish all of our thermal paste out to one side. Cooler's on, now would be a good time to make sure it's straight because sometimes these can have a little bit of wiggle room. So once again, for this fan, we're gonna be putting it on this way because we want the air to come in and it's gonna go out the exhaust in the back. I'll show you guys how to put on the other fan too, so don't worry. You're gonna take these brackets, they're all the same. Come apart, please. That was impressive. So we're gonna put these on the outer parts. We're gonna have to lift this up a little bit so we're not hitting the RAM. And I like to kind of line the fan up with the top of the cooler, kind of have it seamless. And this is what I was saying I love about these coolers. The little heat pipes kind of sticking out of the top. I think that for aesthetic purposes, this just looks so much nicer. And as you can see, we got it pretty flush with the top. You could spend a while trying to get that perfect if you want. Now for the second fan, we need to do it backwards from what we just did. Make sure the cables are facing down. I've seen people have the cables facing up. Don't know why they do that, but we're gonna have it down so that we can cable manage nicely. So the reason the fan's on backwards in this regard is because we want the air to come through. If we put it the other way, they're gonna fight. All right, let's say we're pretty even in the fan department. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this around. So it does come with a fan splitter, which we're gonna need. Whenever you have a more basic motherboard like this, it's not gonna have a lot of fan headers. We have a total of 2 on this entire board. 3, sorry, we have a total of 3. I don't wanna use the one that's in the middle of the board though, and the one in the bottom we're gonna need for our case fans. So we're gonna plug this one in. This is just a little fan splitter. It's free, it comes with it, it's great. And it's also 4-pin, which is really cool. So plug those in like that. And then one final touch I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and add a little zip tie to this to make our lives a little bit easier. Rather than trying to shove all these cables underneath the cooler, and a lot of times they'll end up like coming out, I like to just do this sometimes so then we can put the excess cable underneath the board when we put it in the case, kind of like that. So there you go, that's a completed motherboard. It's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and show you guys how to put it in the case.
First, when you unbox your power supply, make sure you put your power cord somewhere safe. Easy money. But hey, we got our power supply out of the box. As we mentioned before, this is a 650 watt 80 plus gold power supply, and it is non-modular, meaning all these extra cables are on here, which might look a little intimidating at first, but don't worry, we'll show you guys how to cable manage later. But hey, we got this big old thing of cables here, and we got our power supply ready to go. Undid the twist tie. In this bag that comes with your power supply, you also get 4 coarse threaded screws and some zip ties for cable management. If you don't have any zip ties at home, definitely use these, they do the job. And you also get a power supply tester, which hang on to that if you do need it in the future. But hey, we'll hang on to these screws. These are the screws we're gonna use to screw in the power supply. As you can see right here, 4 coarse threaded screws. Now let's get the case ready. We're gonna take both side panels off. First, the tempered glass, we're gonna open up the magnetic door and lift up. Once again, tempered glass, very fragile. Be sure to put it back in your case box or somewhere where it won't get knocked over. I see it all the time. There are 2 back thumb screws that I have already removed for this back panel. One right here, one right here. You can literally unscrew with your thumbs or use a screwdriver, pull it out there. Same deal, put this back in the box so you don't lose it. Now inside this case, we gotta be sure to get a couple things out. First, we're gonna move all these cables out of the way so we can install our power supply. And then right here, we're going to pinch and pull to get our bag of screws, which are essential to install the motherboard and anything else you might install into this build. And look at that, you get even more zip ties. Really, that's a cool thing. This build gives you plenty of zip ties for cable management. These are like little ones though, it's crazy. But yeah, we'll go and open this up, and we have a bag within a bag. You'll have a lot of bags of your PC building. And you'll see all the screws that you need right here, and even a little riser remover tool. Definitely hang on to that if you're gonna do a lot of PC builds, very essential. But let's go ahead and install the power supply. We're gonna go ahead and take the power supply, fan facing down like so, and we're going to slide the power supply in, and then I will try my best to line it up without looking, but Jonah, we'll see if the screw holes are lined up. Boop. Perfect. And there you go. You see the 4 screw holes that are ready to go? Take those 4 screws that I told you to get out when you got the power supply out of the box and screw it in with a Phillips screwdriver. And just like that, we have the 4 screws installed, ready to go. Next up, we need to install the I/O shield, which I remembered I placed over here. If you don't know what the I/O shield is, it comes with the motherboard. This I/O shield goes back here, which basically covers up the I/O for the motherboard to make things look nice and clean. Don't forget this, it's an amateur mistake if you do, so don't forget it. We're gonna take the I/O shield. These are the audio ports that normally are on the bottom of the motherboard, so the easiest thing to do is find these audio ports, line it up like so, and push in all the corners. I'm doing this from a very weird angle, but hey, I like to challenge myself sometimes. So we're gonna do one there, and one there. Cool. Now our I/O shield is installed and nice and secure. Now all we have to do is lay down our PC case and then lower the table, because obviously we gotta make sure Jonah can see what I'm doing. We gotta make sure we don't have any extra standoffs. I don't think we do. Standoffs are these little like nubby things that you screw the motherboard into the case. Make sure these cables are out of the way too. You don't want to pinch these power supply cables, but we're gonna go ahead and take our motherboard, hold it by the cooler. This time I can hold it by the cooler. Calcer, if you want to reference that, you can. Then we're gonna take our motherboard and cooler, holding it just like this. I love this Arctic cooler not having all these extra cables that need to run behind the board. We're gonna make sure these cables that Jackson put are underneath here so we can kind of hide them a little bit. But I think, let's say that and they're just not wanting to stay there, okay? I think we are, ooh yeah, we got a little extra one right here. So if you guys see, there's a standoff that's touching the bottom of this motherboard. That's a no-no. You don't want that bare metal on metal contact with the motherboard because it can cause some problems. Remember that tool I told you that you should definitely get? I'll put it on the screwdriver so you guys can see. But this thing allows you to basically unscrew the standoff and screw it back in pretty easily. So we're gonna go ahead and unscrew this one and just move it up like so. And don't over tighten it. It's good to go. Now we're gonna take our motherboard, pick her back up, Same deal, and we're going to plop it down. There is this fan cable up here that you might want to get out of the way to make sure it doesn't get pinched by the I/O. Kind of hard to see, but just check the back of your I/O once you install the motherboard, make sure there's not a fan pinched up there. Maybe so. I'm hitting the bulge of these cables. You should be able to see where all the screw holes are. So we got one right here, one right here, one here, one here, one up here, and one over by the CPU power. Very simple. We're gonna get our fine threaded screws, which are in this screw pile we got. And just for comparison, this is a fine threaded screw versus coarse threaded one looks like. Do not use these, use these. Cool? Sounds good. And last, but certainly not least, just like that, they're all screwed in. I will say, and we'll show you guys during the cable management section coming up here in just a second, I might unscrew these two screws right here, the top one and one right here, because some of the stuff like the USB 3, you can see how small this motherboard is. We might run stuff behind the motherboard to make it look a little bit cleaner, because you see how far of a stretch that'll be from these grommets. So I'm probably gonna do that during the cable management section. You don't have to do that at home if you're not comfortable doing that, but it just looks a little bit cleaner that way. It's kind of a Toasty Bros thing we like to do. But hey, we have everything installed into the case. Now we gotta plug everything up. Let's bring Jackson over here. Let's get the two cameras set up. We're gonna plug up all the power cables, put the GPU in, get power to the GPU, and then just like that, we're cable managed and we're ready to game.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is everyone's favorite part, plugging in all of the scary cables, but don't worry, follow along, it'll be nice and simple. Starting off with the 24 pin. This is the main connector off of the power supply that provides all the power that your motherboard could possibly need. And I think we're gonna do right through this little grommet here.
Yeah, it's not perfect because the motherboard is definitely a little bit smaller, but hey, the 24 pin will come out of here and it will plug up right here. If you have a slightly longer micro ATX board, it'll look a little cleaner, but hey, this looks still very solid. Once you push it in, clip, and good to go.
All right, next up, we're gonna be doing the CPU 4+4 pin because these actually split apart. Matt's only gonna need one, but for now I'm gonna leave them together because he might be able to plug it in and kind of make it look like they're both plugged in. It'd be kind of cool. We're gonna do that right through the top here.
As you can see, it's coming out. Let me move this light so y'all can see it a little bit better. Not the best angle in the world, but you see that little 4 pin up here, this thing right here, guys? We're gonna take this and we're gonna see if we can plug in one side of this so you don't have to separate it. Make it a little bit nicer. Trick your friends into having a full A pin. All right, so we're gonna use the right side and we're going to push. And I think it locked in. Yeah, it locked in. And then I'll push some of these cables back to Jackson, but as you can see, it is plugged in, ready to go.
Now this right here is called the PCIe. Funny enough, it's kind of like the CPU where it's an 8 pin, but this is actually a 6+2. This 3060 Ti should only need the one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of preemptively feed that. We're not gonna put in the graphics card yet. Oh yeah, that's gonna be perfect.
So as you see, here it is, it's coming out. We're just gonna push it off to the side for now, if we can get all of it through.
It's catching on the little...
Oh, there we go. Just need a little rotation here, but hey. Here is the PCI power. We'll tuck that other one to the side in cable management later, but hey, we're just gonna leave that.
And now one of the last things I'm gonna go ahead and do with the power supply is this right here is a SATA. This is gonna be used for like older SSDs and hard drives, but we actually need to plug in the ARGB hub. So we're gonna plug that in just like that. And now I'm gonna basically show you guys real quick how to just go ahead and make yourself some extra room to shove these extra cables that we're not gonna need yet. And then we're gonna go on to plugging in the motherboard connectors.
Now while Jackson's doing that, as I mentioned before, I'm gonna go ahead and remove a couple of these screws to make it easier to run stuff behind the board. Again, you don't have to do this for USB 3. You could really just run USB 3 through this same spot right here. But I'm gonna go ahead and remove these two screws just to make it a little easier.
All right, so what I'm gonna do, this cage just slides out. The reason I'm removing this is for two things. One, weight reduction. Number two, we're not gonna be putting any SSDs or hard drives in this, and even if we do, there's actual SSD trays in the back that is literally just for hard drives. So now what I can do with all those extra power supply cables that I'm just not gonna need, along with the stuff I've already plugged in, I can just shove all that down here, which is great. Definitely get stuff out of my way. And honestly, it makes the build a lot less intimidating. So, all right, all of our power supply connectors are plugged in and done. They're gone. So Oh God, come on. All right, so next up, I think let's go ahead and do USB 3. I think that's one that we're gonna do behind the board, right?
Yes, and I realized I'm gonna take 3 screws out because, yeah, all the ones on the right side to make it a little easier.
This is USB 3, big blue and black connector. It looks pretty much the same universally, and it can be a little difficult to plug in. Matt will show you guys. Just make sure that you don't bend any of those pins that are on the board. So
here's the USB 3 right here. We're gonna plug it up right here. Flip, plug, push, click, boom. Boom!
This is kind of a random one. Normally I wouldn't do this yet, but this is a fan header. I just know it can get a little tight. There's one right down here, right? Towards the bottom, like left.
There's one by the front panel.
Cool. Well, I think we should have enough length this time.
All right, so here comes this little fan header that we're gonna plug in right here.
The really dope part about this case too is that one fan header has all the fans daisy chained on it. Boom. So all of our RGB and our fans are now going to work. Speaking of front panel, Matt, this is the front panel. This is probably one of most beginners, like more intimidating step. They're all labeled though, and they're labeled on the motherboard. So if you just pay attention and take a few minutes with this, you'll get them plugged in right.
So I'll focus in right here. The front panel, as you see Jackson's bringing the cables out here. Here is the front panel connectors. McAllister put a diagram on screen here. And the far right over here, I'll move my hand out of the way. This spot, can you highlight that, McAllister? This right here is where the front panel goes. And yeah, we're gonna start with the hard drive LED in the bottom left. Right above that, we're gonna do the power LED, positive on the left, negative on the right. And then across from the power LED, we have our power switch. There's no reset switch for this case. It's the RGB button.
All right, we got HD audio next. That one's gonna be on the opposite side of what we just plugged in. It's gonna be missing one pin towards the middle, so don't get it mistaken with USB 2.0. They won't plug in interchangeably, so you shouldn't be able to mess that up.
So as you can see, here comes the HD audio right here. Very simple, there's HD audio, and it's gonna plug into the far left header. Line up the missing pin, and push. Good to go.
Guess what, guys? We got one more thing to plug in before we do graphics card. USB 2.0 looks just like HD audio, but it's labeled differently, and there's a pin missing a little bit closer to the edge, and that one's gonna go probably like right where we put the PCIe through.
Yeah, okay, so you can see that sticking out like so. Here it is, and we're gonna line it up with one of these two headers right here.
One of these?
One of these. And while Jackson is probably gonna go over just whatever he's gonna go over, I don't know what he's gonna go over. I'm gonna go ahead and screw in those screws again.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically at the point now where, you know, Matt and I have been doing this a lot more recently where we go ahead and run our PCIe. Just makes it easier because you can see I already have a good basis for cable management, but Matt just needs to put in the GPU, plug in the PCI, and then we're totally good to go.
All right, gamers, it is time to install the graphics card. Here's our GPU, and we're gonna install this thing on the topmost slot on our motherboard, our PCI slot right here. It is right above the SSD, and what we need to do is do a little test fit. We're gonna see which of these covers we need to remove, and just by eyeballing it, it's gonna be these top two right here. So we're gonna take this out. Now, one thing we did a YouTube short about is being very careful when breaking off these like break off tabs, because you can actually scrape the motherboard a little bit and cause some damage. So be very careful, or if you happen to just skip to this step and have not built the PC up to this point, you can remove it ahead of time if you want to. But I doubt that is the case for you. So just wiggle it back and forth very carefully, and don't let it scrape up against the motherboard very much. Wiggle, 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 and boom, just like that, we are good to install the graphics card. Now we're gonna take our GPU, line it up like so. See right here, it looks good to go. And then we're gonna give it a big ol'...
You know, you don't always get a satisfying click.
You know, I didn't get a click, which is...
One of the most important parts is it might be in, but
Yes.
making sure that that lane, the little tab, is actually closed.
Yeah, it looks like it is closed, so that was not satisfying. I'm actually quite disappointed there, but it was installed, good to go. We are gonna take, it looks like with the case, it came with normal coarse threaded screws, not like the power supply screws, which we can use those are fine. These screws right here.
Focus up.
Use those. And we're gonna go ahead and screw in the graphics card. Crazy. Slide this cover, lock it in, take this, our PCI power. Very simple, we're gonna take the PCI power and we're going to plug it up right here. It looks like it would go clip up top, but the clip goes down below. Push in, click, we're good to go. And then what we'll do, a little cable management trick, is we'll go ahead and take a zip tie. For this extra PCI power, we're gonna go ahead and basically line it up with the other one. Use a little zip tie magic. You really only need to use one. You can use two if you wanna be extra, which I'm going to be. And just like that, we're good to go. Grab some snips, get those off there, and then Jackson's gonna show you how to do basic cable management.
All right, it's everyone's usually least favorite time, cable management. So it does come with a good amount of included zip ties. We like to keep you know, a few thousand on hand just in case, but basically I like to start my way from the top and work my way down, because the top is really where you want most of your cable management done. So this does have some Velcro straps in it too, which are a nice little touch on this case. Basically, I like my cables just nice and bunched together. So we're just gonna find spots that, you know, where they're kind of sticking out or they're not quite lined up with the other ones. And then any cables that you can kind of route together, definitely do. I'm just gonna go ahead and put one more at the bottom here. I always tell you all, once I get towards the very bottom, I like to leave that area a little less cable managed, because if you ever need to do any expansion or any like troubleshooting, having the basement you know, really well cable managed can kind of be a little bit of a hassle in my opinion. But hey, if you want to go for it and you got enough zip ties, do your thing. And it's snip time. Well, that's pretty much it. We got it very nicely cable managed, so we're gonna go ahead and flip this thing around and turn it on and see what it looks like.
It is time to turn this on.
Do it work? It works. It's on a scary RGB mode, but it's okay. It's a button.
Well, but just tell me when to stop.
RGB.
RGB. Hey, look at that. $700, looking pretty dang solid, but we got a game on it. And then we'll talk about how you have a chance to win one of these PCs. Maybe you don't want to build one yourself and you want one for free $99. You might be able to get one of these. Stay tuned to the end of today's video.
All right, guys, we're playing some Warzone, some Resurgence specifically. And we're at 1080p, we're running balanced preset. We do have NVIDIA DLSS set to balanced. If I live long enough, I will turn that off, because I know some people do not like upscaling. But as you can see, guys, balanced settings with a basically balanced DLSS, getting 130 to 140 frames per second. That's definitely a victory I'll take. And you know, this PC could definitely do some streaming as well. I mean, the fact that you know, we're getting this type of FPS at like respectable, definitely means that there's room to stream with NVENC encoder, especially at 1080p. You know, lower the settings a little more if you want that like high refresh rate. But for sure, this is streamable, which is great. You're not rezzing, son. Ooh. Ow! Absolute demon, bro. All right, well, you guys got a little bit with DLSS. I'm gonna turn DLSS off, so it's just raw. But let's go off. So now we're getting the true FPS with you know, no supposed added latency. We'll still do balanced. I can't with this stupid game, bro. You lucky son of a gun. Go back from where you came. Oh, I'm so bad. Dude, that guy was like sitting still and I missed. Dude, what? Oh, I didn't mean to shoot. Anyways, it worked really good with DLSS on, it worked good with it off. Like I said, this is the AAA title, but you could definitely stream on this PC while playing it. Pretty freaking cool. Let's go to the next game. All right, guys, we're playing Fortnite, everybody's favorite battle royale. You know, forget Call of Duty, but we got a frame cap of 200 FPS at 1080p full screen. We're on a custom preset because we're basically all those settings except for our view distances on Epic. We're not using any upscaling, you know, so we can get our maximum potential frame rate without having any latency introduced. This is our first drop. We've said this millions of times, but our first drop is always going to have a ton of lag. But once we hit the ground, it should smooth out and we should see pretty much what the game's gonna look like throughout. But yeah, as you guys can see, I think Matt got the Shaq skin, so we're Shaquille. Pretty cool, pretty cool. He don't know what's about to hit him, baby. He don't know what's about to hit him. Ooh, I think this guy's gonna run up the stairs. Oh, no, he's not. He might be smart. Oh, he's smart. He knows I'm here. No, he doesn't. Get back here, nerd. Ooh, I got our victims here. So we can run one of them over. Boom! Ooh, that was nice. I feel like we don't ever get kills from running people over. Oh, I missed. That's embarrassing. Don't touch my vehicle. These guys suck. Oh my god, it's the last airbender. He's about to be the last airbender once I'm done with him. Ugh. Not on my watch. Oh my god, they have so much health. Oh, this guy has the thing. Oh, what is that? Ugh. This guy thought he could do movement on me with my own vehicle? I feel pretty good with, is that 12? Do I have 12 kills? Is that right, McAllister? I don't feel like I've killed that many people, but guys, this is a successful Fortnite run. Like I said, almost 200 FPS most of the time, but I would say like an average of like 160 to 180. Pretty freaking cool. So at this point, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the built-in benchmarks, the time spy score, the price per point and everything, and then we're gonna wrap the video up and tell you how you can win this gaming PC. All right, guys, we just got done benchmarking the giveaway PC, and we got some amazing results. In Black Myth Wukong at medium settings, we got an average of 102 FPS with around 17s for the lows, but of course, that's just like 1 or 2 frames here and there. In Battlefield 2042, at high settings 1080p, we got 106 FPS average, which is pretty freaking insane. And then in 3D Mark Time Spy, we got a score of 10,828, which is a 6 cent per point score. Overall, this PC is a really good value. I mean, the fact that you can build this PC at home for around 700 bucks. The 3060 Ti is a super easy card to get on eBay. You don't have to get like a Dell OEM card like this, even though it does look nice and performs good. You can get yourself a Strix card if you want, and you can still find them for pretty cheap used. Still a very relevant card. So make sure you check the links down below because they will be affiliate links and they will help us out. And on top of that, if you just want to get one of these PCs for freaking free, all you gotta do is be at our Twitch giveaway October 11th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard. We will be giving away one of these gaming PCs while playing lots of video games. PCBros will be there so you can talk to us, ask us questions, and it's gonna be a really fun time, guys. So make sure you're there. We do these every single month, every second Friday. So don't forget, if you miss this one, you can come to the next one. And hey, if you don't win the PC, I get it. You might still want one of these. We will have 4 more available on PCBros.tech. That's another thing we do. We always make multiple of these PCs, but they are limited, so make sure you pick one up while you can. But we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, check out our other 2 YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/ToastyBros. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Peace out. Once again, guys, PCBros.tech is who make the actual giveaway possible. Obviously, we're in the same building, so if you want to come and buy one of these PCs in person or online, we ship around the whole entire US. We also have things like this, merch, pretty cool stuff. There's even more on the wall over here that Jonah can point to, but we hope you guys enjoyed. Check out PCBros.tech. Use code ToastyBros to save 3%. See you all later.